All right, so here we have a guy by the name of Chris. Now, Chris is going through kind of a frustrating time right now with his throwing. He's having a little bit of issues with his distance. He used to throw in the 42-foot range. Now he's throwing in the 37-foot range. And his coach is basically someone who used to be his teammate and they never got along and doesn't give him a whole heck of a lot of help. So I'm going to go through this for Chris, see if we can help him out. As always, want to go through this in real time first, kind of watch the throws a few times just to see in full speed what might be going on. All right, so let's go back here. Let's keep on watching this. So first thing that I see is definitely looks like he's jumping and throwing at the end, meaning he's just sort of jumping in the air and letting his arm follow through. It also looks like he's stopping when he gets to that power position. It looks like it's a two-part throw. So it looks like we need to speed him up a little bit, get him from stopping, get him to react a little bit better at the front of the circle, and to stop that jump and throw. All right, so let's take a look here frame by frame. And what we're going to see is that Chris does a lot of things really well. I like how he gets nice and low to the ground here. You can see the back is parallel to the ground. That's what I like to see. I also like that if he was in a throwing circle here and he dropped the shot put, it would land on the other side of his foot. So it wouldn't actually hit him in the knee, it wouldn't hit him in the toe, it would fall outside the circle and not hit himself. So that's what we're looking for in a setup and a back. You see here he brings the knee to the knee. He tucks his his left foot behind his right heel, which I'm not a big fan of. That typically causes people to glide kind of crooked and land what we call in the bucket, land all the way over to the left side of that toe board, sometimes stepping on the line or stepping on the actual circle itself. See here, he does a pretty good job of unseating. You can see he's starting to kind of twist his hips sideways. So see how his hips are kind of pointing. You know, if you look at like his butt, like his tailbone, it's pointing down the middle of that circle or the middle of the throwing sector here. And then as he starts to go, see how that bringing that left foot in kind of twists his hips sideways, gets him in this twisted up position. That's why I'm not a big fan of it. He pushes off the heel pretty well. You're a little bit too upright in the middle, standing up a little bit too tall. So that's all things that you can work on in the back. Maybe as time goes on, we start to make these corrections. But really, the big things that I want to work on are happening sort of in the middle and the front of that throw. But let's try to, again, just put the toe next to the heel. Don't wrap it behind the heel. And let's make sure we try to stay nice and low. Think about if you're gliding under a table. If you're at like, Home Depot or Costco or Lowe's or wherever it might be, they've got those shelves that are made out of plywood. Pretend that you're gliding underneath that bottom shelf. You don't want to stand up and hit your head. Stay nice and low as you glide. All right, then we start to go through. Okay, we're landing on the ball of that right foot. I'd love to see the toe, the knee pointed inside of your garage, kind of pointed in over here, instead of pointing back over here at these old air conditioners or at this planter thing over here. So you're kind of pointed over here at this chair. I want you pointed almost over like directly inside that garage. Okay, so try to get that toe and the knee pointed this way. What that's going to do is it's going to stack your ankle, knee, and hip are going to be right on top of each other. Instead of having your knee out here, your toe, the ankle behind you, the hip somewhere in the middle, it'll stack them all up on top of each other. Much more powerful position. And then what we got going on here is your right foot lands in the middle and you drop the heel. So when you drop the heel, it makes it impossible to pivot and rotate this right leg, the right knee, toe, and hip, to rotate them down the middle, to point them down the middle of that throwing sector. Then the left toe touches. Okay, so this doesn't look like that bad of a position if we had your right foot up on the heel with the toe, the knee, and the hip pointed at 9 o'clock, pointed over here inside of your garage. Okay, so that's where we want to see this right toe, knee, and hip pointed, is inside of your garage, not back here. And at this point, once you land, because you'd be up on the toe, you'd be able to continue to rotate and pivot this right side down the middle of that throwing sector. But you see what starts to happen here. This is where that pause comes from. Left foot hits, shift, 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 shift. Now that right heel starts coming off the ground. So look at how much time it took for you to start to rotate your right leg. And now look how far your weight has shifted in between your feet. So instead of keeping your weight back and trying to rotate and drive the hip and the right knee down the middle of the throwing sector, you dropped your heel, and that made your body weight shift, your center of gravity, center of mass shift in between your feet. And then instead of pushing through the ground, you kind of do this like jump and throw kind of thing. So you jump and you throw. It's not bad. You're just not able to create any power with that right leg. See how that right leg kind of just, it doesn't push through the ground, it lifts off the ground. And that's because you're dropping that heel. Your toe, knee, and hip are not pointed at 9 o'clock. They're not stacked up. And that's causing you to shift weight. So let's do a couple things first. Okay, first thing that we want to do is obviously when we get to the middle of that circle, work on landing on the ball of the foot with your toe, knee pointed inside of your garage. Okay, don't drop that heel. Stay up on the toe. Excuse me. Don't drop the heel. Stay up on the toe. And then we want you to start to anticipate this left toe connecting to the circle. So anticipate. As soon as that left foot hits, you got to stay up on the ball of your foot the whole time. As soon as that left foot hits, you need to start to pivot and rotate the right hip and the right knee. Start to accelerate and push, point, turn those down the middle of that throwing sector. You've got to do that before you start to shift weight. So don't shift weight, then turn the knee. Turn the knee, and then shift your weight. So that backwards of shifting weight, then turning the knee, it's going to be a lot easier if you land up on the toe, turn the knee, and then shift the weight. Okay? So those are the big things I would work on first, and that's probably going to yield you the biggest results. Remember, big corrections will yield big results. Little corrections are going to give you a couple of inches. Big corrections will give you a couple of feet. So work on those two things. Okay? Work on those two things. Turn the right knee and the right hip and the right toe. Point them inside of your garage. Turn the right toe, the right knee, the right hip all at the same time. Turn them down the middle of that throwing sector. And then explode and push. Try to keep those feet on the ground until the ball leaves your fingertips. All right, so that's what I got for you today. Good luck with everything this season. Sounds like you're not in the best spot with not getting along with your former teammate who is now your coach. It can be a very tricky spot to be in, but keep up the good work. Let me know how you're doing, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section down below.